So let's see what our good friend Freddie has been up to lately. Hi, Freddie. Hi. You don't sound so good. I'm so full. I think I ate too much for breakfast. Oh, what did you have for breakfast? Pancakes? Hash browns? I had Girl Scout cookies for breakfast. Well, how many did you eat? 2 boxes. Oh my gosh. 2 boxes? I should have stopped after the first box. Wow. What kind of Girl Scout cookie did you eat? Oh, Thin Mints, of course. It's my favorite. But they shouldn't call them Thin Mints because they won't make you thin. Just look at you. Yeah, that's true, Freddie. I wish Thin Mints would make you thin, but I've had a little too many Thin Mints in my day. I love Thin Mints too. I wonder if I can buy some more cookies today since it's Girl Scout Sunday. I'm getting a little bit low on my stock. Oh, gee, we probably could. You bought some recently? Yeah, I bought some recently. How many did you buy? 50 boxes. 50 boxes? How much did that cost? I don't know. I just put it on your credit card. I guess I'll get the bill later. Maybe I'll be the #1 supporter of Girl Scout cookies here at OCBC. Did you know what today is? Something about Girl Scout Sunday? Yes. The Girl Scouts are chairing our service, and Girl Scouts throughout the country are leading their religious services. Do you know who founded Girl Scouts? Mrs. Ochiai? No, Mrs. Ochiai's done a lot of things, but she didn't start Girl Scouts. It was started by a woman by the name of Juliet Lowe a long time ago, 1912. 1912? That's even before you were born. That's right, it's a long time ago. And did you know that Juliet Lowe had a physical handicap? Oh, what was that? She had some ear injuries when she was younger, and she was nearly deaf, so she couldn't hardly hear. Oh, but despite that, she was able to start Girl Scouts. So, you know, hearing is very important in Shin Buddhism. Listening. Listening is the central practice of Shin Buddhism. Just listening? Just listening. Well, it's so simple. It sounds so simple, but it's very hard to do. Yeah, sometimes you don't listen very well, do you? Yeah, I think your wife calls it selective hearing or something like. Yeah, I know, it happens all the time. She sends me to the store to get something at the store. I don't write it down, and I go to the store, and I come back, and I forgot the thing that she asked me to buy. Well, why is that? It's because I never really heard it the first time. So listening is really hard. And we have to have the right attitude, especially in listening to the Dharma. The right attitude? That's right. We have to listen as if we're listening, as if the teachings are meant just for me, for nobody else. Oh, you mean we shouldn't listen for somebody else? No, we shouldn't listen with the attitude like, well, so-and-so should hear this sermon. They need to hear this sermon. We have to listen as if the message is for me. Oh, that's what makes it hard? That's what makes listening hard. And so, in Shin Buddhism, we focus on listening. And even if we can't hear, even if you become like Juliet Lowe, where you can't hear, you can still listen. Well, how can you listen if you can't hear? Then you listen with your heart and with your whole body, With your whole being, you listen and receive the Dharma. Whoa, that must be really hard to do. That's really hard to do, but real listeners, even beyond words, even beyond sound, they can hear the Dharma. Oh, I think I just heard my stomach grumbling. I'm actually getting a little hungry. How can you be hungry after 2 boxes of Girl Scout cookies? I don't know. I think it's time to go home for a snack. Okay, just don't eat too many. Okay. I think I have 1 box left. Okay. Bye. Thank you for listening to Freddie. Now let me go through a few slides that I have. So today's Girl Scout Sunday. Let's go to the next slide. And as our chairpersons, and as Freddie mentioned, it was founded by Juliet Gordon Lowe, founder of Girl Scouts. Next slide. So she lived with a physical handicap, as I mentioned. Next slide. As a child and young adult, she had these ear injuries, which left her nearly totally deaf. Next slide. But despite her handicap, she created the Girl Scouts of the USA in 1912. Okay, next slide. So as Freddie mentioned, listening is a main practice of Shin Buddhism. So listening can mean listening to sermons. It can mean also reading books on Buddhism, discussing the teachings with others. There's many ways in which we can listen. Next slide. But mainly we just listen and listen and listen like you're doing today throughout our lives, throughout the entirety of our lives. Next slide. So the question arises, well, what if we can't hear? What if we lose our hearing like Juliet Lowe? Well, how do we listen then? Next slide. So in Sacramento, once I gave a sermon in which I went down into the Sangha and I had a microphone and I was asking people different questions. And I was asking them what you like best about coming to the temple. I asked some young people the question. I asked some older people. So there was this elderly lady, about 95 years of age, and this is what her response was. Next slide. So she said, I'm very hard of hearing, and I can't really hear the messages, but I still like to come to listen. I thought this was a profound answer. See, if you are hard of hearing and you can't hear the messages anymore, then you might think, well, I'll just stay at home. It's no use to go. I can't hear and understand the messages. I'll just stay home and watch TV or go to a brunch or something like that. But this lady still comes to listen. Next slide. So I realized that this lady, she's listening beyond words, beyond sound even. She's listening to the Dharma with her entire being, with her entire being. Next slide. So although she cannot hear the words of the message, she enjoys attending, to be with the Sangha, to feel the Dharma. See, to feel the Dharma instead of hearing it through words. Next slide. So she maybe enjoys seeing the faces of the Dharma school children, seeing the faces of her old friends that she only sees on Sundays. And although she cannot hear the message, she still savors the Dharma every Sunday. Next slide. So we have to have the right attitude about listening. Our former Gomonshu, Koshin Otani, in his book, The Buddha's Wish for the World, he teaches us about this right attitude in listening. And there are three main points that he makes. Next slide. So he says, you should listen as if you're listening for the very first time. Now, most of us have grown up here, but some people have come to Buddhism new, and maybe it was a very exciting, but also maybe a little bit scary thing the first time you came. You didn't know what to expect. You think about that first time experience. We have to listen as if we were hearing it for the first time. Next slide. So we should listen as if the message is for you alone, as Freddie mentioned. You can't be thinking, oh, that person should really hear this message, like my husband or my wife or my father or my mother. No, the message is for us. Next slide. You should listen as if this is the last time you will ever do so in your life. We don't think, oh, I have a whole lifetime to listen. I might as well put it off. No. What if today is my last opportunity to listen? We have to listen with that kind of attitude, as if maybe this is the last time. Then we will very intently listen to the Dharma. Next slide. So, in our selected sayings, we have this one passage that says, listen to the Buddhist teaching, even if you must take time out from your busy daily business. To believe that you will listen when you have some spare time is shallow thinking. There is no tomorrow in listening to the teaching. This is the words of Rengyo Shonin, the 8th patriarch of our Shin Buddhist tradition. Now, was that the last slide? Oh, okay. So, while we have our sense of hearing, we should take full advantage of being able to listen to the Dharma. And even if we lose our hearing with age or whatever, then we can still listen with our heart and our body. That's a wonderful lesson I learned from a very elderly lady at the Sacramento Betsuin who listens with her whole being.